How much would you pay to go back to your high school years with all the knowledge you have now? How would your life be trimmer, stronger, and mentally smooth? What if you could have a York peppermint patty sensation that you did travel back in time and got it all right, and you find yourself here now, fresh out of an alternative 1990s history, ready to lead a healthier and positive life? Well, that's what a JDM WRX wagon feels like. A car from an alternative 1995. So state save back to the 1990s yourself at primedriven.com. Deadline to enter to win this car is January 20th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every $1 you spend will give you 10 automatic entries.
It's a Subaru JDM. It's a WRX wagon. It's from 95.
This is a 217 horsepower or 236 horsepower or 256 horsepower. We've been getting conflicting information. Subaru WRX wagon from the Japanese domestic market. Or if you want to be really cool, you call this a GF, the chassis code for an Impreza wagon body. This car weighs about 2,600 to 2,700 pounds, which makes it feel as fast as a modern USDM WRX, which has about 305 horsepower. But the wagon's lightness also makes the brakes feel amazing. This body is tight as well. I'm assuming due to the TN coilovers. And it could also be it's a slick top. There's no sunroof, so that could be helping the rigidity too. Throttle response is snappy and aggressive, which I nostalgically credit to the mechanical throttle. Japan didn't require airbags yet in 1995, which feels bizarro because US cars almost all had dual airbags by 1995. I remember my parents' 94 Caravan had duals. But on the JDM WRX, you did get an automatic up and down driver's window. You got metal tie downs in the trunk. You got, well, no third brake light. This particular GF also has an aftermarket JDM suspension adjuster module, which isn't hooked up to anything because the wagon now has coilovers. There's also a turbo timer, which isn't hooked up because this car is taken back to stock, and it also has the stock turbo vent that diverts like 25% of the intercooler scoop air onto the turbo via this ducting. You also get cup holders that do nothing but elevate your coffee so it falls on you with more velocity. And you also get logic controls. Okay, I love this. These controls look like analog HVAC controls, the kind that are in my like 04 Forester. The manual HVAC controls rely on the muscles in your hand. You turn it, that pushes some levers around and controls the air as it goes through the ducts, whether it comes in your face or goes down on your legs or up to the defroster. That's why they go kunk, kunk, kunk. There's like resistance and they're harder to turn in the cold. These, it still has the knobs, but they're all electric switches. So you turn them, there's no resistance. They just go click, 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 click. You also get an American head unit. And in the manual, you get to read about the adventures of Pompadour Johnny. Pompadour Johnny peeps some mommy's side boob. Pompadour Johnny rides on the roof after an Eagles win. Pompadour Johnny bout to straighten out some scabs. These hood vents, or heat extractors, can be fully functional if you want them to be. Normally, they're just blocked off like this. You don't need them to be open for like 99% of driving. But I think the idea here is that if you're going to use the WRX GF as the amalgamation car it was meant to be, you remove these block-off panels for track use. The fogs. Yo, the fogs. They're bigger than the headlights. This blew my mind. When I saw this in Gran Turismo 1, I was flabbergasted. I was godsmacked. I nutted in my Gap jeans. Yo, if the fogs are bigger than the headlights, it must mean the car's really fast. And the turn signals and marker lights are two separate lights. That's something we really stopped doing in the US. Like the marker lights and the turn signals became integrated. Japan didn't do that. The turbo EJ20G feels more Honda-like than Subaru. Listen. I've been waiting for this road.
I was going to say, we haven't been on this road since the Evo 10.
In a Subaru with proper double cams. There it is, 6,000 RPM. Oop, I went past red line for a second. Third gear, good gear.
Now remember, this is the hairpin.
Okay.
This is a hard second gear. Full-on hairpin. Formula 1 style hairpin.
Hey, other Subaru. Joop. And this thing likes to live up top. That's only half the rev range. This thing redlines at 7,000 RPM. So it's like NA Toyota high.
Yes. Yeah, I mean a 3S GTE, you know, this vintage was 7250.
Turbo also is coming up high. So that's not ours, is it? No, that's not ours.
No.
Wait, this doesn't have dual cams. Well, it does have dual cams. I don't think it has variable valve timing, though.
It does not have variable valve.
That's fine. So what I thought was variable valve timing is in fact just the turbo.
Yes.
Since I'm not hearing, since it's not making your American bro choo-choo sounds, I kind of forgot that there's a turbo in there until it starts spooling. Which
Yeah,
it comes on at about 5, closer to, well, late 5. So the amount of time you have to really work the turbo is not much, but then what's the spacing in between these gears? 4,000. There's about 800 RPM between that gear and that gear, and 500 RPM between third and fourth. So that's probably good. Well, fourth you're going to be moving pretty good. Be shifting into that. What is second? Second to third is about 800 as well.
Probably want to turn around somewhere around here.
Okay. I also went right past redline a few times. Is there even a fuel cut or a spark cut going on here? Maybe there isn't. Maybe all you have to keep from, like, floating valves is the red line. 1995 Subaru WRX Wagon. This is the WRX before the Fast and the Furious told you how to think about it. This is like when you think you made up a term only to find out plenty of people have been using it for years. You think you know Chungus? I been new Chungus. The pre-Fast and the Furious WRX is a car of near effortless cool. It predates the overbearing cynicism of modern car culture spawned from the "hey, I'm just asking questions out loud" form of journalism that used to go in the editorial section instead of the front page. Everybody hates everybody else because something they might have heard that may or may not even be true. But their uncle shared it, and Uncle Swear Words always knew what was up, so maybe Subarus aren't really cool, and we should all buy American, or whatever he says from his crouched position next to dead wildlife. This runs on the EJ20G A-Type, a 4-cylinder, turbocharged engine, making approximately a bunch of different horsepowers, but let's go with the most conservative, which is 217 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 225 pound-feet of torque at 5,000 RPM. Look, we don't have a 4-wheel dyno, so we don't know exactly what this is making, but it's a healthy 200 range horsepower, which is great for a 2-liter with no variable valve timing. The only modifications include stainless steel catback exhaust, aftermarket suspension, the TN coilovers, and 16-inch 5-spoke Schneider wheels. There's no tune on this whatsoever anymore. This is as it came from the factory. And it even has the factory Nardi steering wheel and an overall appearance that calls to mind what the WRX would become in the following decade, but more modest. This is the cotton candy of Subarus. It's all light and airy and carefree floating like that one continent in Final Fantasy VI, except nobody's getting kicked off the side of a WRX unless they start messing with the radio while Dave Matthews Band is playing. The WRX never got its bad reputation until it found its way stateside in the early 2000s. Because if there's one thing Americans are great at, it's elevating something in popularity and disdaining it at the same time. There's a divide between how WRX owners view their cars and how everybody else views WRX owners, which, I mean, whether that's fair or not, hell, look at how the Mustang community has been judged for the bad apples at every car show. You know, the people who played Carmageddon on PC and thought, one of these days, WRX drivers. They're even more overbearing than a guy who used a stimulus check to straight pipe his diesel truck. The car community is built on pillars of hypocritical judgment, all locking together like hands in prayer. Sometimes it just feels good to have a bunch of people share your opinion and express what you're feeling in ways you can't verbalize. And it's also why Benjamin, who just graduated from Westchester and has to play devil's advocate in every discussion, stopped getting invited to D&D night. Read the room, Benjamin! Just because a statement is true, Benjamin, doesn't mean that vocalizing it is inconsequential. You can go on Subaru forums or even WRX-specific forums, and you will find owners who are critical of their own stickered up, overtuned creations because they understand the destructive power of what one bad apple can do to the public perception of the thing they own. But most times, you see people who view all modern WRXs through the lens of this JDM model. Because show up to a car meet with this, and even though you're slower, you're still cooler. You can tune a modern WRX all you want, but you can't tune in lightness. A modern WRX is never going to feel as light and snappy as this. You don't have to try in the 90s WRXs. The opinion is that the appeal of this car is it's evergreen. And, even if it isn't, the attitude still is, well, hell, I'm not driving insert crappy car here. It's not too far off from the mentality that makes Dr. Phil popular. Because even though he's a self-righteous carny disguised as a hack spouting unlicensed gibberish wrapped in folksy rhetoric the way you wrap a dog's heartworm medication in cheese, there's a part of the human brain that finds comfort in looking at the unfolding disaster and thinking, well, my life might suck, but at least I'm not them. It's all rooted in that sense of high-minded imperiousness. It's the same people who will say, well, once a cheater, always a cheater, and then claim their favorite movie is Titanic. And before we close, I apologize for my generation, the tail end of Generation X, or the very, very beginning of the millennial generation. I'm not sure which I am. I was born in 1981. You guys can figure it out. My point is, I was getting my driver's license when Gran Turismo 1 came out. And I didn't know about the Japanese domestic market then. So I got all excited for these cars in this video game, wanting one of them. And I remember that this Wagon was the first one I bought in the video game when it came time to win, the four-wheel drive races. And then I realized that these cars aren't here. All we had in the US is frickin' Loyales in the 90s. Yeah, the Outback Wagon. Ooh. And then we got the Impreza 2.5 RS. Still no turbo. So now it's here. The car from the video game. So I apologize that my generation is now jacking these prices. But hey, for the price of a hoodie at primedriven.com, you might find yourself walking away with this car. Links in the description again. Thanks for watching.
Win this car. The deadline to enter is January 20th. Win this car at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Win this car.